Strap yourself in because today it's getting crazy as we unleash the power of nature with an army of ever-growing plants, catching our opponents off guard and securing some jaw-dropping victories. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm using another amazing enchantment from Murders at Karlov Manor, paired with an old common that's been around for a while to help take down your opponents before they even know what's happening. So what's the trick I'm using today? Well, it's all built around Insidious Roots and a deck full of graveyard shenanigans. Insidious Roots is an amazing 2-mana Golgari enchantment that says creature tokens you control have a tap for 1 of any mana, and whenever 1 or more creatures leave your graveyard, you sprout a 0/1 plant token and put +1/+1 counters on each plant you control. So our game plan? Well, we're going to push the limits of this card to the max with a lot of synergistic strategies and with our eyes set on the surprise knockout punch from Rotten Reunion. Rotten Reunion is a 1-mana instant. Not only does it exile a card from any graveyard at instant speed, potentially pumping up all our plants and spawning a new one for either offense or defense, but it also gives us a handy decay token. Perfect for tapping for mana thanks to Insidious Roots, and as a bonus it helps tidy up our opponent's graveyard if things are getting dicey. Other synergies in this deck include Ichor Drinker. It's a 1-mana 1/1 lifelinker that for a swamp you can exile it from your graveyard to incubate 2. As before with your enchantment, you spawn a plant too. It's a great early play and then a late game threat from your graveyard. I've got Ashnod's Harvester. It's a 3/1 with Unearth that when it attacks you exile a target card from a grave. This creature alone can make multiple plants when it's unearthed, and it does attack hard. I've got Undead Butler. They mill 3 when they ETB to fill your grave with goodies, but when it dies you exile it from your graveyard to make a plant, then return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, making another plant. I've got one of my low-key MVPs in this deck in Snarling Gorehound. It's a 1-mana 1/1 with Menace that says Surveil 1 when a creature with power 2 or less joins the fray. It triggers on every new plant you make and is totally busted as a turn 1 common in this deck. I really can't believe it does so much for 1 mana. Old Rutstein mills, makes tokens, ramps, and works great for us, as does Stalactite Stalker. It gets bigger as you descend, and we descend in this deck a lot. In fact, you could easily add way more descend effects if you feel like you want to go that way. I've got Corrupted Conviction for some card draw and Go for the Throats for removal. 24 lands, including our Surveil lands, which are great for us today, and that's the deck. My word, this deck is so much fun to play. I love the strategy and each game is so different and your choices in-game are endless. Again, with Standard, the alternatives are endless too, but I want to shout out Case of the Stashed Skeleton. It narrowly missed the cut, but it definitely deserves a spot in the lineup if you can squeeze it in, especially handy for its tutoring effect to fetch our beloved enchantment. But enough from me, I want to hear your thoughts, your ideas and your wildest combos inspired by Murders at Karlov Manor. Drop them in the comments below, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, give us a like, your support means the world to this channel and I'll catch you again in the next video. Right, on the draw. Hand looks like a mono black hand, but trust me, there is green in this deck. Opponent with an island, and there is our Restless Cottage. Normally a turn 1 sort of play to get your tap land out of the way, but Snarling Gorehound as a turn 1 play is pretty effective for us. And I'd rather drop that. Opponent with a Lazev. So I think we're just going to deal with that now. They're clearly up to some kind of shenanigans themselves, so let's get that out of the way and attack our opponent there with our Gorehound. 1/1 with Menace, but whenever a creature ETBs on our side of the battlefield with power 2 or less, you get to Surveil 1. Opponent cuts it down though, and we find a Harvester. So we'll play Harvester, and we will just hold open the Corrupted Conviction in case the opponent wants to remove this card from us. So not really sure what they are specifically up to. Maybe just a Dimir control deck. But Harvester's pretty nice as it attacks pretty well actually as a 3/1. But they have an Urtai Resurrected to kill our Harvester so we draw a card. But I'm going to sacrifice it and draw 2 instead. Looking for Insidious Roots. There it is. And what better time to play it when the opponent is tapped out than now. We'll get this on the battlefield. And it's going to pass the turn, I think. Could play the Drinker here. But might want to use the Rotten Reunion, especially if the opponent is playing Lazev. They might be up to some kind of graveyard shenanigans. don't want to find myself in a pickle, because Rotten Reunion actually does quite nicely at dealing with opponents' graveyards, not just your own, but we will use it here with our Gorehound. It's going to make a 0/1 plant, which then puts a counter, a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. And we get a 2/2, so suddenly we've got 6 mana available. Another Roots is pretty nice. Auto tapper there, tapping my 1/2, which is not really what I wanted. So I think as soon as we've got Rotten Reunion, we've got this Drinker, and we have the Harvester, I think we should be okay to just play our hand out here. And if opponent wants to board wipe or start killing our creatures, then we're going to make a whole ton of plants. If we'd tapped differently, we could have been attacking here with our 1/2. But that is fine. Opponent is playing Otawara there to get their Urtai back. Well, I don't really care about that. Siphon Insight. Okay, that is a target actually for Rotten Reunion if we want to use it on their creature later. And they play Midnight Assassin, which is a 1/2 flyer with Death Touch. But are we just going to get crazy here? We can always attack with our Restless Cottage, but I don't really want to lose my land for the sake of it. We can play a Harvester here. This will create a plant, or it'll create 2 plants because of the 2 enchantments on the battlefield. And then when this attacks, if we were to exile our Butler from our own graveyard, we would actually create another 2. But I'm going to just go for this Siphon Insight instead, to keep the opponent off of their sort of card advantage. And depending how they block, we might even Rotten Reunion here from our own grave. Alright, they block our 3/4, so there's no point us doing that right now. And drop the opponent down to 12, and I'm pretty sure they're going to need to deal with this board now, because they are going to be dead next turn. Otherwise, as we have our Restless Cottage, we can also animate. So the Rotten Reunion is cool because it's an instant. Opponent is using Coerce to kill to control our creature, but it is a 1/1 that is tapped, and we can just eat this Butler from our graveyard. Make another 2 0/1s, pop 2 counters on every plant we control, and we even find another Rotten Reunion, but we can just animate our Restless Cottage here and attack our opponent for the victory. And yeah, nice little win there. Alright, on the play. Pretty nice hand. Really would like to get the Roots down on turn 2 by playing this Glade or even the Mortuary, but I really like the Gorehound. 1/1 common. I just can't believe as a common it works so well for us here. And even though we don't get to play the Roots here on turn 2, I am not too concerned. I'm going to actually leave the Conviction on top of our deck. It's a card that I don't mind having. It's we'll be able to play the Roots next turn and then hold open the Conviction if the opponent wants to kill our Gorehound maybe. But looks like they're in the tank about something. Selesnya. Venom Connoisseur, okay. So when creatures ETB, they get Death Touch, but we'll play our Roots, and the Menace on our dog here means we can attack the opponent to put him down to 18. Not really sure what we're up against here. These are cards that are not often used, and Halo Fountain. Okay, so they are a Streets of New Capenna style deck here. Never really played with Halo Fountain. Maybe I should give that a go at some point. Never managed to get the alternate win with that card. But we'll pop our Harvester down. And yeah, if opponent wants to start dealing with our creatures, we can always Corrupted Conviction them and then draw some cards that way. They play Celebrity Fencer. And hopefully they attack. I will block with the Harvester. Oh. But they don't. Okay, well, we'll just pass the turn. Let's go for the throat. Honestly, not really concerned about their deck at the minute. And our deck's kind of slow in this one. So we'll just say go. Could do with an Undead Butler or Old Rutstein. But we're under no real pressure here. We have Go for the Throat available. Maybe we should have used it on our last turn there where the opponent was tapped out. But yeah, so they can untap the Fencer to make a 1/1 to put a counter onto the Fencer. So we're going to have to go wider than them here. But I'm just going to play Rotten Reunion here to get another creature onto the battlefield. Could always Corrupted Conviction it right now, but we'll wait. We'll see what we can do over the next few turns. As we find another Rotten Reunion. Okay. So these would be great if we had creatures in our graveyard. But yeah, we don't. So there are plenty of other options you can put in this deck. There's so many cards that mill 2 or 3 when they ETB. I did find that I was milling my Insidious Roots quite a lot. And I was then having to spend valuable sort of resources to try and find a way to get that back into my hand. So I decided the sort of random milling wasn't really where I wanted to go. Yeah, opponent protects their creature there. Should have absolutely Go for the Throated whilst they were tapped out earlier. And I do like Case of the Stashed Skeleton. That was a pretty nice card, but had to cut it in the end. And then I was playing this, I bought this Gorehound in, and I think it's just been so much better for me. Opponent is getting in there with their creatures here. So I'm going to need to draw some gas soon because we've been having a pretty slow start here. So let's Rotten Reunion from our graveyard, make another 2/2, and this time I'm going to Conviction it to draw some cards. You can always use Corrupted Conviction just before the end of your attack phase, after the damage has gone through and before the Decayed trigger occurs. But we need a way to make some more plants here. We need to make a way to make some plants. Another Roots and Undead Butler is what we're looking for. So fingers crossed we can go pretty wide here. And Old Rutstein as well. We'll definitely get the Insidious Roots here. Down. Play the Butler. So we could have played Rutstein there and hoped that there was a land on top, which there was, and we would have then been able to cast the Butler using the 2/2 on the battlefield as mana. But we should be good now just by using the Ichor Drinker from our graveyard. It's going to put 2 plants onto the battlefield. They're both going to trigger the Gorehound. Opponent's also doing some shenanigans over there, making tokens. Takenuma, probably not right now. Waste goes in the graveyard. We've kind of been flooding a bit here in this particular game. Definitely want to be using this Rotten Reunion in our hand as a surprise effect. And that's what the opponent's doing. They've got a Rabble Rousing here. But they've only got 4 creatures on the battlefield, so even if they attack with everyone, they can only make 8. And I don't care if my Butler or my Harvester die here. So let's see how this turn goes. I guess their creatures are going to get Death Touch. Okay. Surprised they didn't attack with their 7/6 as well. But yeah, we'll kill our Butler and the Harvester. And what's fantastic when the Butler dies is you can exile it from the graveyard to make a couple of plants. And then return a creature from the graveyard to your hand to make 2 more plants. So the Butler dying is one of our better game plans here. And as you can see, we're going a little bit crazy here, and the Gorehound is surveilling a whole ton of cards to the graveyard. So I think we've kind of outpaced the opponent here. Go for the Throat, can deal with this 7/6 that's on the board. And let's make some more plants. Opponent oops us. Well, this is all because of the Butler really dying. And I guess we can just go for the win here. We'll just play the Harvesters. That'll pump up all the plants. And then we can just go for the throat. This Celebrity Fencer as well. For a massive victory there of our plants. But our opponent scoops it up before we get a chance to attack. Alright, on the draw. Another nice hand. Gorehound in it again. So Gorehound into Stalker on turn 2 with the Mortuary on turn 2. Looks like a decent early game for us here. And we will do just that. Our little 1-1. Putting in the work today, this thing. And the Menace makes it really good at just attacking to squeeze through a little bit of damage. Opponent on Orzhov and says go. So we find another Gorehound. Okay, well, normally I'd want to play the Mortuary here to get the tap land out of the way, but I think I want to get Gorehound into Stalker. And Stalker will get a +1/+1 counter at the end of turn if you descend this turn. So a lot of descending in our deck. Certainly feel free to pop more descending synergies in if you wanted to. And the Stalker, you can actually sacrifice it to do -X/-X to an opposing creature, where X is its power. Easy way to get it to the graveyard if you wanted to. But opponent with the Virtue there. But all our creatures have Menace. Could do with an Insidious Roots. Okay, well there's go for the throat. Right. I guess we should use our Surveil land now. Boseiju would be nice if they play the Virtue. But I'm going to see if I can find a way to outpace them. I do want to make sure I descend this turn. And we'll just smash and just hold open, go for the throat. See what our opponent wants to follow up with. Rear Eva. Okay. So let's deal with that. Went into full control because it did say at the beginning of combat, and I was a bit worried that we would enter combat before I had a chance to enter the beginning of combat before I had a chance to use the go for the throat. But I'm glad we held that open. So we find another Stalker, which we'll play. Make sure we descend this turn. And Old Rutstein is a pretty nice card actually to have for next turn. But let's just get busy here with our creatures. And we might as well take from our opponent's graveyard because we don't have our Insidious Roots. So the menace of our creatures is absolutely fantastic for us. They go down to 7 and we haven't found Insidious Roots in this game. Our Stalkers get pumped. And we're threatening lethal next turn. See what they have up their sleeve. Nothing. Nice little beatdown there with our menace creatures. Alright then, on the draw. And Gorehound again in our opening hand. Opponent with a Broker's Hideout. But we do have Insidious Roots, so it's something I'm definitely going to want to get down quickly. This time I'm going to play the tap land here. Could have played Takenuma, but I actually want to just keep that in my hand as long as possible. Opponent with a Riveteer's Overlook here. So far, mono green. But no untapped black mana here for us. So I'm just going to go Gorehound into Gorehound. See if we can surveil ourselves something in the graveyard for next turn. And especially against mono green, just a couple of creatures in the battlefield is pretty nice. But it looks like they're on Abzan. That is Sentinel of the Nameless City. Okay. Another Roots. Alright, well, we'll play this, definitely. And I'm probably going to block and then Corrupted Conviction, so we'll attack with one of our dogs. Opponent with a lot of cards in their deck, it looks like. And is a Stomper to ramp away. So what is it with these 200, 250 card decks? I'm not really sure I've ever even tried doing it, but I did notice a lot of people doing that. We'll sacrifice our dog here, though, to draw a couple of cards. We find a Stalker and another land there. So let's drop our second copy of Insidious Roots. And if we can start making some plants, we can go wide very quickly. Also, one of the upsides with opponents having board wipes are that we can pretty much rebuild very quickly. But not much going on for us right now. We'll just pass the turn. Could have played the Stalker then, it would have been a 2-2, but going to use Rotten Reunion here instead to make a bunch of plants for next turn. Put it with Shelly, okay. The 5-mana Sheoldred is going to deal with our Gorehound. But not a problem for us. I guess we can't block with it, but I am going to just Rotten Reunion here. Take out one of these Gorehounds from our graveyard. Make a couple of plants, make a 2-2 that can't block, and I'm not really going to block this creature with what we've got on the battlefield. And there is Old Rutstein. So we'll drop this, well, we'll drop a forest and we'll tap the forest to play Rutstein. See what we mill. Mill over a land. Play the Stalker, and then we've got Rotten Reunion to deal with our other dog from the graveyard at instant speed. So we can surprise block our opponent's creatures here if they wanted to. Opponent with Realm Breaker. Actually, a card I'm very happy to see because they're going to start milling us for us. And creatures and an Ashnod into our graveyard there. Yeah, they're going to regret that. I'm pretty certain of it. So we will Rotten Reunion here, our Gorehound. Going to make another token. And yeah, we're kind of going pretty crazy here. Could do with another Rotten Reunion to sort of surprise kill our opponents. So let's use our blood token whilst we can. Boseiju, okay. Well, I don't really want to blow up their Realm Breaker, so I think we'll just play our Ashnod here. It has Unearth, so we can just play that, create another 2 plants, and as we go to attack, as long as we attack with our 3-1, we're going to create another bunch of plants and put +1/+1 counters on all our plants. So as long as there is something in our graveyard, which there is in Old Rutstein, opponent milled that card for us. And this is a huge attack, and opponent's going to die or lose most of their creatures here. The Stomper can't block. So I haven't done the math here. Wonder if we could have killed them had we attacked with the 2 zombies as well. Did we have lethal there? I think we might have had lethal there if I attacked with Old Rutstein and the 2 zombies. Should have maybe done the math there, but we're in a very good position here. We also have a land that we can attack with if the opponent finds a way to blow up the board. But they have been thinking for a good 5 minutes here. Don't want to say they're roping me, but suddenly they're not actually performing any actions. And yeah, don't think they liked the plants there. Alright then, on the play. Hand looks perfectly reasonable. So we will keep this one. Unfortunately, we don't have any turn 1 creatures, but it is a good way for us to get our tap land out of the way. Our Underground Mortuary. The ideal card here to surveil away would probably be an Ichor Drinker. But I think we'll go for the Undead Butler here. Get some board presence going. No need to play the Roots just yet, as we don't really have anything going on in our graveyard. Oh, an Old Rutstein is a nice 3-drop for us. So we will we'll definitely be playing that. And setting ourselves up for a nice little few turns later on. So ideally, if the Butler is going to die, it dies with the Insidious Roots on the battlefield. So it's a card I definitely want to get down there if I can. As you can see, a Rutstein there did mill over our drinker. So we will play our roots. Guess we can just exile our drinker from our graveyard. It is at sorcery speed, so you do want to make sure you get that done on your turn. And we'll say go. We have Corrupted Conviction if they go for any of our creatures. Rotten Reunion if we need to use that as well. And opponent soul transfers Old Rutstein. Well, we have Corrupted Conviction available here to sacrifice that, draw 2 cards. I really was going to use that maybe on the Butler to grab a whole ton of plants this turn, but so be it. And we will play our Gorehound here. And I guess we can play our Mortuary. That's a good card there for us to surveil away. It's our drinker. But I'm nervous about the opponent having a board wipe, so I don't want to go too crazy. So I think we'll just go in with the Incubate token here. We can't do 17 damage to them this turn. Just checking to make sure that I've got enough mana to perform sort of a rebuild job if I need to. I think this is fine. 2 mana open for our blood token or the conviction or reunion or pretty much anything, but don't want to go too crazy. One of the mistakes made against in standard at the moment is just putting all your creatures on the battlefield. There's a lot of removal. An opponent has a lot of cards. Another deck with a lot of cards. Some shenanigans here as they are discovering into Daring Discovery to discover 4 into an Appraiser. Okay, is this a combo I'm not aware of? They get an Appraiser onto the battlefield, discover 3. Legion to Ashes to take care of our Insidious Roots. Alright, nice little answer there for that. So I think we'll Corrupted Conviction here, our Undead Butler. This is going to make a plant. And we will pop our Rutstein back into our hand, I think. Could have put the drinker into our hand as it's going to not be too effective in our graveyard without the Insidious Roots on the battlefield. And then we have a mana here from our 3/4 for the Rotten Reunion to pop a creature from our graveyard. Guess we just take the Stalker. So a lot of... I'm glad we left mana open this turn to make a whole bunch of plants. And unfortunately we lost our enchantment, but our plants keep all the power they've got and we can just pretty much just go in for the kill here. Our opponent decides they're going to scoop it up before we get a chance to attack anyway.